"Evening, friend. The air's heavy tonight, like the earth's holding its breath. You ever notice how quiet things get when a summer storm's just passed through? Like the world's been washed clean, just for a moment. There's still the smell of rain hanging in the porch wood, and the sky's got that bruised purple hue that only shows up in June. I've got an old photograph sitting here beside me, faded at the corners, the kind you have to squint a little to see right. It's my dad, standing next to our old '49 pickup, hands in his pockets, hat tilted low. There's no smile, but there's no frown neither, just a kind of steady presence, like he belonged to the land he stood on. I've been thinking about him more lately. Funny how that works. The older I get, the more I see him in the mirror, in the way I walk, even in the things I don't say. He wasn't the kind of man that folks made speeches about. Never had much to say, really, but you felt him in a room. He wasn't loud, never needed to be. In all my years growing up under his roof, I don't think I ever once heard him raise his voice. Not once. That might not sound like much to some folks, but to me, it meant everything. See, I was a restless kid, always pushing boundaries, poking the world to see where it would bend. And when it didn't, well, I'd flare up mouth first and mind second. Got me into trouble more than I'd care to admit. There was one summer, must have been 61 or 62, when I really tested his patience. I'd just turned 21 and thought I had the world figured out. Came home one evening after getting fired from the lumber yard again. My third job in 6 months. I tossed my boots in the corner and slammed the screen door hard enough to rattle the frame. I was spoiling for a fight, too. Half wanted him to yell, tell me I was lazy, that I'd never amount to nothing, something I could push back on, but he didn't. He just looked up from the kitchen table where he was mending a tear in his work shirt, quiet as the moon. Didn't say a word. Just nodded once, and went back to his sewing. I didn't know what to do with that kind of silence. It sat on me like a weight. That moment stuck to me like burrs on my jeans. I didn't know it then, but that quiet, that steady, unshaken quiet, it was his strength. And over time, I'd come to learn just how deep that strength ran. A few days after that slammed door and silent dinner, I found myself out by the barn pretending to fix the old tractor. Truth was, I was hiding from him, from myself, maybe from the world too. The sun was beating down hard that day, but I kept at it, oil-stained and angry, trying to turn wrenches on something I barely understood. That's when my dad showed up. I didn't hear him come, just noticed his shadow stretching long across the dirt beside me. He didn't say a thing right away, just leaned on the barn wall, arms crossed, staring out over the fields like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. After a long minute, he said, "Ben, you know what makes a river strong?" I didn't answer. Figured it was one of his riddles. He always had a few tucked in his pocket. "It ain't the speed," he said. "It's the way it carves, slow and steady. Don't shout, don't rush, just keeps moving. And over time, it shapes everything around it." He paused and looked down at me, eyes calm but steady. "I ain't trying to break you, son. I'm trying to outlast you." I remember sitting back on my heels, blinking up at him, not sure what to say. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small pocket knife, his, the one I'd watched him sharpen 100 times, held it out to me. "This was my father's," he said. He didn't say much either, but when he gave me this, he told me the sharpest blades are the ones that take the longest to hone. He left it in my hand and walked away, just like that. Didn't scold me, didn't preach, just offered me a knife and a thought that would take me years to truly understand. Back then, I wanted answers in the form of orders. I wanted direction with noise. I thought strength had to sound like thunder, but my father, he was all quiet rain and deep roots. I didn't know it yet, but he was teaching me how to listen, how to wait, how to be still and not mistake that stillness for weakness. His voice never rose, but his message always did. I didn't change overnight. Truth is, I was still stubborn for a long time after that. Took a few more hard knocks, a few more doors slammed behind me, but that knife, I carried it everywhere, not always in my pocket, but always in mind. And every time I ran my fingers over its smooth wooden handle, I'd hear his voice again, quiet, firm, never hurried. Over the years, I started to notice things I'd missed before, like how he'd always leave the porch light on no matter how late I came home, or how he'd fix the things I broke, never with complaint, but with the quiet purpose of someone who believed in restoration. He didn't teach me by correcting every move I made. He taught me by letting me witness what it looked like to stay grounded, even when the world pushed hard. I remember once, years later, when my own boy was about 12. He got into a fight at school, threw a punch over something foolish. The principal called, and I could feel my chest tighten, feel the words rising up my throat, loud ones. But then I heard my father's voice in the back of my head. I ain't trying to break you. I'm trying to outlast you. So instead of shouting, I sat with my boy on the front steps, just the two of us, and the sound of crickets in the tall grass. After a while, I asked him, "What hurts you enough to make you want to hurt somebody else?" He looked up at me, eyes welling, and all that anger drained out of him like water out of a cracked jar. That moment might have passed us by if I'd chosen noise over stillness, but I didn't, and I owe that to my father. Funny how the loudest lessons can come from the quietest men. Now, with my own hands lined like his once were, and the porch creaking under my boots the way it used to under his, I see it so clear. His strength was never in how much space he took up, but in how steady he stayed when the world around him spun out. And in that steadiness, he gave us all something to hold on to. There's a kind of echo in fatherhood that doesn't always sound like words. It's in the way we pass down the little things, how we fold a shirt, how we stand when we're thinking, how we handle a moment that could turn stormy. I see it now, even with my grandson. He's just a little thing, but he watches everything. The way I stir my coffee, the way I tie his shoes without rush, the way I pause before I speak, and every now and then I catch him doing something the same way I did, not because I told him to, but because he saw me do it. That's the thing about quiet strength. It leaves footprints where the noise would have blown dust. My father never sat me down for a big speech about life, but he lived it in a way that I couldn't ignore. He showed me that you don't need volume to be heard, and you don't need anger to be respected. He taught me that silence can be sacred if it's filled with presence. There were days when I wanted more from him, more affection, more affirmation, and maybe he didn't always know how to give it. Men of his generation, they carried things inside, kept their love folded into the corners of actions. But I never doubted that he cared, not once. He was always there, quiet, constant, reliable. And over time I learned that love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up. Every single day, I've tried to carry that with me. I haven't always succeeded. I've raised my voice more times than he ever did, lost my patience, took the long way toward understanding. But I kept that knife, still have it, right here in the drawer beside my chair. And when I hold it, I remember that sharp things take time, and so do men. The nights deepen now. Crickets are singing low and steady, and the wind's rustling the porch screens just enough to remind me I'm still here, still breathing. Funny how, at this hour, everything feels softer, like the world's given us permission to put down our guard just for a while. Sometimes I wonder what my father would think if he saw me now, older than he ever got to be. A father, a grandfather, a man still trying to do right by the quiet legacy he left behind. He never asked for thanks, never looked for applause, but I think if I could tell him one thing now, I'd say, I saw you. Even when I didn't understand you, I saw you. And I'd thank him, not for lectures or punishments or rules, but for being the calm in the storm, the steady porch light that never went out. I guess what I've come to believe, friend, is this. Not all strength looks like muscle. Not all power sounds like thunder. Sometimes it's a hand on your shoulder that doesn't let go, a silence that makes room for your own voice to rise, a love that doesn't shout, but shows up over and over and over again. So if you're listening to this tonight, and you've got someone in your life like that, someone who's quiet but constant, don't wait too long to let them know you noticed. And if you're the quiet one, the one who shows love in steady ways, who listens more than you speak, who holds space rather than fills it, thank you. This world needs your kind of strength more than it knows. And if you're still finding your way, still shaping who you are, even now in this season of life, just remember, if you're still breathing, you're still becoming. Start small, let it matter. Now go on and rest easy. The night's got you, and somewhere out there, I like to believe, so does he.